good Wednesday evening to you. How is everyone? It is good to see you, and it is good to be seen by you. I, of course, am Bill Sylvie, the one, the only, the Dungeon Delver, at least as far as I'm aware. But anyway, welcome to Wednesday. We're going to be bringing Kyle in just a minute, and we're going to have some fun because I need it. I need it, and I think we all deserve a little bit of a larf. But anyway, not a LARP. That's different. But I hope everyone out there in TV land is doing okay. Hey, Ricky, Bob, Connect, Clark, good to see you all. Hopefully we'll have some more folks coming in here momentarily. I just rolled in from Paint Mini's live stream. It's one of those things. There's a little bit of a crossover, but he's doing a stream right now. He's still painting up the dragon, and so I definitely recommend if you're not going to watch this live stream, if you're like, I don't want to, then go watch Paint Mini's live stream, because it's really keen watching him paint with an airbrush. It's very cool. So that's going on, and wow, I am way out of center. I have to make some adjustments to the camera. But anyhow, how are you guys doing? I hope everybody's doing just fine. A couple of things to discuss before we get going. Someone had asked last night, and I hadn't gotten around to this, and to you, I apologize, sir or madam, about setting up a subscription on YouTube subscriptions. I will absolutely do that. I just kind of got pasted by a couple of things today and didn't get really a good chance to dip back into that and deal with it. But it is my hope to do that. Now, why, of course, do I bring up Rattling the Tin Cup? That is because it is no longer just for my handsome face and my snappy repartee, or that of my co-host Kyle, that I bring it up, because now patrons at the $10 level and up, you will be getting every month a mini module, a Dungeons and Dragons mini module. In fact, if you follow me on Twitter, and I'll put the poll on YouTube also, because I know there's not a huge amount of crossover there, but there's some. For that first module, I want to know what level range you guys are all about. It's first edition AD&D, as it should be. But right now, 4th through 7th is leading by far. So if you want a 1st through 3rd, or you want an 8th through 12th, or God help you, a 13th through 16th, this is going to be the time for you to go and vote. And then in August, our $10 Patreons and our $10 Subscribe Star supporters, and our YouTube subscribers at the $10 level and up will receive a PDF copy of that module, and I hope it is something that you will all enjoy. But look, if you're not going to do that, if you're just stopping by, please click the subscribe button, click the bell icon for notifications, give the video a thumbs up, and tell us in the comments what you liked about it. And without further ado, or as little ado as possible, let me welcome to date the only Kyle Schuant in Australia that I know, and that makes him kind of unique in that respect. Ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend. He comes from a land down under, and I'll leave the rest to your pop radio sensibilities. Kyle, how are you, my friend?
Hello, boys and girls. Yeah, all good here. It's just cold. That's not why I'm not in the garage today.
I see.
I wuss out and stay inside.
I gotcha. Well, Kyle, we're gonna do something about that cold, because we're going to hell, and I don't just mean in the way the show usually does. But as the audience knows, you are a big adherent of letting the dice tell a story that neither the players nor the dungeon masters expected.
That's what I got this little bucket of them for.
There you go. We have done entire hexes to build small kingdoms. We have done cities. We have done dungeons. We have done characters. But Gary had so much more in store for us in the Dungeon Master's Guide in the diabolical sense. And this is basically a construction kit for creating critters from the lower planes. That's right. They were flying coach creatures from the lower planes. So I thought we could have some fun with that. What do you think, Kyle?
Yes, it's that and the random intelligence sword.
That's right. Random intelligence swords. We're gonna do those too. So let me see. Random monster encounter. Appendix D. Congregation.
Yep. I haven't rolled up a random demon for a very long time. I was a bit disturbed because the last time I did it, I rolled up like this bipedal thing with multiple arms and mandibles and a fly's wings and stuff, and it was basically Jeff Goldblum in a fly.
I love it.
And I found it too disturbing.
No, I love it. That's not disturbing enough, says I.
This is where we get the crossover between D&D and Cthulhu. Yes. It freaks me out.
Oh, and I missed some chats. Hello, like me. John Stewart Keller. Yes, every month, a mini adventure module. It could be a city. It could be on a ship. It could be in another plane. It could be your standard dungeon. But you will get it. Now, look, it's not like you're not going to get Temple of Elemental Evil every month, okay? I just don't. I say mini module.
How long will it be? Is it the one-page dungeon? Or?
I'll try to do a little better than one-page dungeon. I think that gets a little reductivist sometimes, but we'll see. So $10 and up. I mean, every month. You can't beat that with a stick. What is an adventure? Have you priced any new RPG products these days, Kyle?
Well, they're a bit alarming here in Australia, but that's because most of them come from the US.
Mm.
And for a long time, from back in the early 90s, because of the exchange rate, between the exchange rate and, they were printed in the US and then sent over here, put all those together, and the basic formula was to take the price in US dollars and double it, and then add the 10% sales tax. So your $25 book became $55 Australian.
That is brutal.
Yeah. So they did that when the exchange rate was like 50 US cents to the Australian dollar, which was okay, fair enough. But they continued doing it even when around. I know that in 2012 it was parity. It was like $1 Australian dollar is $1 US dollar. I know that because that's when I went and saw Raven McCracken in Seattle.
Yes.
So, but they kept doing that because like people were used to paying those prices, so they kept doing that. So they're fairly pricey here. There don't seem to be a lot of modules. From what I've seen in stores, the last few weeks I've been going around to various game stores, and basically 90% of it is D&D 5th edition, as we might expect. But most of the modules that they've got on their shelves are just 5th edition versions of the old 1st edition ones.
Mm.
Like there's a 5th edition Keep on the Borderlands and stuff. And
yeah, I've got the hardback version of that one, and Barrier Peaks and TOEE. Yeah, I mean this you could kill somebody.
I haven't looked into it. For all I know, 5th edition is pumping out heaps of new modules and stuff, but I haven't seen them on the shelves. And they're fairly pricey. So those books would range between like $70 and $120 Australian.
Wow. Yeah. So this is a bargain, folks. This is a good adventure module, and I'm just gonna say right out, it's good. It's good. You know, I'm a damn good writer. So
yeah, well, John says nobody needs Temple of Elemental Evil every week, and so that's why I asked if it was going to be like a one-page dungeon or something. Because, like, if you have say one game session a week, you probably don't get through more than the equivalent of a one-page dungeon each week. You know what I mean? So, like,
yeah,
like four pages, or allowing for some parties who really charge through things aggressively, 8 pages. Add in some fluff, maybe 12. You know.
Yeah, it'll have some meat on it. We'll see what the first one's like. I don't want to promise. Yeah, it's going to be 8 pages. You know, because
that's just what I would be thinking of if I were writing them up.
Yeah. Wait, you're not going to be helping me write these up? But anyway,
I haven't been asked. So.
I'll
just roll them up and then write it up a description after.
Yeah, G1. I consider G1 the gold standard. Now, I love me some Keep on the Borderlands. Keep on the Borderlands, like, depending on what day of the week it is, you know, is it an odd day or an even day of the week? I'll tell you that I think Keep on the Borderlands is the best module ever. But on the other day, I'll tell you it's G1 Studying the Hill Giant Chief. It's 8 pages. You don't think about that, but the original was only 8 pages long. And there's so much stuff crammed into 8 pages that it's just, it's mind-blowing. So I could drop an 8-page module. And I'm not saying that I have Studying the Hill Giant Chief in me. But, you know, I could drop an 8-page module that could be fairly useful. So hopefully...
Against the ape cult.
Against the ape cult. I think Mr. Kyle has called the ball. So, all right. So,
or the Wicker Tower of the Ape.
The Wicker Tower of the. So against the AP1 against the ape cult. AP2, the Wicker Tower of the Ape, and what do you think? AP3, the Final Banana. I think we've got it. I don't know that those will be mini modules, but Kyle, we'll talk. I keep trying to come around this. So page 194, open the good book to page 194, and we have Appendix D, random generation of creatures from the lower planes. And this can be devils or demons. Gary had not yet gone to the Demodans and Daemons that he did with Neutral Evil, but we can at least, you know, work with this for pretty much anything from Hell, the Abyss, Tartarus, what have you. In fact, it says right there, at times, it might be useful to have an unrecognizable creature of evil from the plains of the abyss, Tartarus, Hades, Gehenna, or Hell. It is no great matter to sit down and design a fairly interesting one given an hour or so, but time or desire lacking, the following will enable you to create one or several such monsters in but a few minutes. The format is straight from the AD&D Monster Manual for ease of recording and handling the creatures developed. So we have it right now. Kyle, do you have your dice?
You then name the demon afterwards, and like the one I described earlier would be called Jeff of the Blooming Gold. So
I named them after kids that annoyed me in school when I first started doing this. So with that said, Kyle, if you have your dice to hand, let us start with frequency. That is going to be a D6.
6.
A 6. So they are rare. Our first demon or devil. Well, Your choice. Are we creating a demon or a devil?
A devil.
A devil. Okay, so this is a rare devil. Number appearing. Now, this Gary has parenthetically to this. Circumstances must dictate. So it's either 1 or 2 to 8 of them.
One of them.
One of them. Okay, so number appearing 1. Armor class 0 to -3, and we determine that with a D4.
Oh, I didn't get that. I rolled 4, so it must be -3.
You rolled. Wow. Okay. Move is 6 inches.
Are you writing this down?
No, I'm not. Let me let me pull up ye old notepad and do that. So
he's rare, number appearing 1, AC -3.
okay. So move 6 inches, 9 inches, 12 inches, 15 inches, or 18 inches, and that's a D8.
I rolled 7.
You rolled a 7. So a 6 through 8, roll D4 for move, and creature also has swimming or flying ability.
I rolled 3.
You rolled a 3. So it has 12 inches of ground movement. And roll a D6 to see if it swims or flies.
I rolled 1.
You rolled a 1, so it swims. So it has a swimming speed, and as a rule, these speeds will be greater than land speed. Add 1 to 4 3-inch increments using a D4.
I rolled 3.
All right, so
So don't try to escape this guy by jumping in the water.
yeah, exactly.
Liam's going to be pulling out the underwater combat rules. And in most of our cases, reading them for the first time.
Just so. Okay. Hit dice, 7 to 10, D4 plus 6.
1. So that's...
So 7 hit dice. Okay. Now, circumstances must dictate. We don't have a die for this, but percent in layer.
In layer. Okay, so 7. I rolled 27.
27. So do you want to do you want to just leave it as 27, or do we want to round up or down? Okay, 27% in layer.
It would just be one of those things where people look at the entry in the monster manual bill and go, "What? Why 27?
Why 27? Not 25, not 20, not 30, 27. Okay. So let's see. Treasure type, low value, if any, circumstances must dictate. So let me think here. How could we roll 1d26, because there's A through Z treasure types? How do we roll one?
Well, percentile dice and exclude the highest one.
All right.
So each increment of 4. So I rolled 94. So it's the second highest treasure type. So
treasure type B, which we will come back to that. I think, and we'll create this, and then we'll create an exemplar one for you guys. All right. Moving along. Special attacks. See special attacks table below. Well, let's go down and look at the special attacks table. All right. First of all, 1 to 3 special attacks it has.
It has 2.
It has 2. Now roll a d8 for which special attacks it has.
I rolled 2 and 6.
Okay, so it has energy drain, cold, it says. And it has spell-like abilities. So no, it doesn't say that it has. It doesn't say that it has level drain. So I imagine it's like a Shadow's Touch. It would temporarily drain abilities or something like that. So it has spell-like abilities and it has energy drain. So what do you think? As a 7th level magic user or as a 7th level cleric for the spell-like abilities?
Well, we have to roll for it. We've got
No, of
4
course.
different spell lists because it could be illusionist or druid as well.
That's very true.
So in alphabetical order. So what is it? Cleric, illusionist, magic user, druid. Hang on. So cleric, druid, illusionist, magic
Cleric,
user.
druid, illusionist, magic user. All right.
I rolled the last one. So for a magic user.
All right. And as it's 7 hit dice, I think it, just appropriate as a 7th level magic user. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Special defenses. 1 to 4, and then a D10 for each.
I rolled 2.
All right.
Special ability 1 and 9.
All right. It is immune to acid.
Just dissolves it in the water.
And it has spell immunity.
Immune to what? All spells or?
Immunities. Let's see. Spell immunity must be limited to 1 to 4 predetermined spells. All right. So roll a d4. How many spells?
3.
All right. And as is tradition, we will go with a random assortment of spells that it's immune to.
Magic user spells, or
I would say magic user spells. Definitely magic user spells. So there are, of course, 9 levels of magic. So roll a d10, ignoring 10.
1.
1. Okay, so the first one. Now this is kind of funky because we need a d30, and I don't have. Wait a second. I just might have my d30 to hand. I could help out with this if I can find it in here easily enough. Yes, there it is. All right. So, our first immunity.
Rob wants to know if devils have spell books. I think probably not, but
No, that's all.
I think they probably don't have to do that, hour of study each day either.
Yeah.
Or meditation or whatever. I don't imagine like devils sitting there in a yoga pose or doing the meditation, prayer to Asmodeus to get there.
Okay. Its first immunity is to sleep. It cannot be slept. Which is 7 hit dice. It couldn't anyway, but whatever. Roll.
It might have babies. So
Yeah. Roll your next d10.
7.
7th level, so it's got a very high level of immunity, and that is a d16. So I guess give us a d20 and ignore anything above a 16.
10.
10. It is immune to Mordenkainen's sword. And the last one, because we got 3 of these bad boys, again, that's a d10.
3.
3. And that is a d24. We'll go with the d30 for that one. I've rolled a 27 and a 25. A 13. Let's see. Well, that just doesn't make any damn sense at all. But Kyle, I'll leave it to you as to whether or not we want to keep this. It is immune to infravision. Do we want to keep that?
Maybe it's invisible in infravision.
There you go. All right.
Because Well, also he's got like the making you cold ability, and he likes to slip into the water. So maybe he's like Arnie in Predator, covered in mud and can't be seen.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I like it. Okay, so
And
we have.
means, so he's invisible to infravision.
He is invisible to infravision. Okay.
So that sneaky little demi-human going ahead of the rest of the party.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, the room's clear. the rest of the human party comes in and says, like, what? No, there's this bloody great. How did you not see him?
Okay. Magic resistance 5% per hit die. To vary, use D6. So as it stands, you rolled a 3. So as it stands right now, so 7 times 5 is 35. A 3 on a D6 indicates an additional plus 5%. So it is 40% magic immune.
Nice.
Or magic resistant, rather. 40%. There we go. Okay, intelligence, low, average, very, or high. That's on a D4.
2.
It's average. Alignment according to plane. We said it was a devil, so lawful evil. Okay, size, small, medium, or large. That's a D8.
5.
He's a big boy. He's large. Now we have psionic ability. That's a roll percentage.
Oh, God. 43.
Nil.
Good.
Okay. Now we get to the fun part. We get to appearance. What's this guy look like? Let's start at the top, Kyle, with its head. That's a D8 roll.
He has got a head like whatever 8 is.
Weasel-like. So it's a Hollywood executive. Head adornment. That is another D8.
2.
A crest or a peak.
Okay, so he's like a Star Trek alien.
Right. Forehead of the week. Okay. Overall visage. That is a D6.
5.
Twitching and moving.
Well, it goes with being weaselly.
All right. And what are his ears like, Kyle? That's a D6 also.
4.
Huge human ears. I'm loving this guy. Okay. Eye color. That's a D6.
1.
Amber.
You have pretty eyes, demon.
And how many eyes does it have? That is also a D6.
2.
You rolled a 2, so it has 2 eyes. Now roll a D6 for what his eyes are like.
1.
Small and multifaceted.
Little beady amber eyes.
Nose, if necessary. That is a D6.
4.
Snouted. There you go. That's the weasel thing.
Yeah.
And its mouth. That is a D6 for how big its mouth is.
Sapphire says flock of seagulls here. 5.
It has a huge mouth. Now, mouth details is a D6.
1.
Fanged. Body attributes. D6, 1 to 4 is bipedal. 5 to 6 is quadrupedal.
5. I'm sensing
So
this guy wouldn't have much success on Tinder.
All right, so yeah, that's a D8.
4.
A crab-like body. General characteristics, roll 2d4.
7. 4 and 3. So.
A 4, so thin and narrow.
A narrow crab, so he's a lobster.
A lobster with a weasel head, a mohawk.
And big ears.
And big ears. Big human ears. I think the lobster's gone bad. You think? All right. Does it have a tail, Kyle? That's a D6 roll.
5.
It does not have a tail. But what does it smell like? What is its body odor? That's a D8 also.
6.
Sweaty. He's a gym rat. He's trying
invisible to infravision, but he's sweaty. So, like, your demi-human crawls down there. Go, can't see anything, but
yeah. I think somebody's just been lifting in here. It should be fine.
he's a sweaty, weasel-headed guy.
Okay, so skin. That's a D8 for the condition of his skin.
7.
Warted and bumpy. I thought about doing this part on Hero Forge, but Hero Forge doesn't have nearly the variety to give us something like this. Predominant color is a D10, Kyle.
3.
Brownish. Oh, we're gonna get in trouble now. Back.
Back. What die?
I'm sorry, D4.
2.
Maned. It has a maned back.
Well, matches the crest.
Yeah, the crest just is
Safi
horrible.
says,
Evil up front, party in back.
Safi says it's just a teenager's bedroom.
All right. Wings, if any, which I don't know if that was, if that, I guess that's just something we decide. Does it have wings or no?
I don't know. Check the charts. It might be an omission. Otherwise, 50-50.
Make it 50-50.
Okay. Wings.
Wings. That's a D4.
3.
Insect-like wings.
This is how I got Jeff of the Blooming Gold.
All right. Arms, 2 or 4 if bipedal, or 6 if otherwise. So it's arms, please. That's a D4.
4.
Tentacles. It has tentacles.
So this is the punishment, you know, if you're bad in the afterlife, you go and become a demon or devil and get to look ridiculous for eternity.
Yes. Safi, he's single. I'm just saying. All right. Hands. D6, 1 to 3, all alike, 4 to 6, different.
1.
So they're all alike, and then a D6.
3.
Pinchard, which follows along with a crab. Legs and feet as applicable. So there you go. That's it. I'm sorry, that's a D8.
6.
Suctioned.
I'll go with the tentacles.
It does. It does. Hey, Road March, good to see you. Welcome, welcome. And I thought Kennex said projects kink as a defense weapon, but it says projects ink as a defense. I don't think we have.
Special attacks. Well, it could be a variant of web.
Yeah.
Or stinking cloud.
Okay, so now we go to the next paragraph says, a bit of imaginative creation is helpful in using the tables above. I think that's pretty imaginative as it is, Gary. For example, if the creature's body is amoeba-like, you might well decide to give it scores of tiny bubbling sucker mouths over its entire body and omit any mouth on the head. Of course, body covering would have to be adjusted accordingly and appendages selected to suit the monster. Likewise, you could feel at ease adding to or amending the tables as you desire in order to get to arrive at still more diverse and unexpected lower plane creatures. See, it's diversity. We embrace diversity. No, not like that. Clark says it sounds like a Clark Ashton Smith creature. Let's see. Let's see. And this actually comes from Demonology Made Easy by an author named Greg Rinn in Dragon Magazine number 20. When you have the form and appearance of the creature, determine strength if necessary, then attack capabilities. That's going to be percentile dice, Kyle.
62.
62. Ouch. So this thing has 18 by at least 51 strength. So it's going to be throwing a +2 to hit and +3 to damage. Alrighty, let's see. We've already talked about our immunities and our attacks. And we're over to other abilities. Audio superiority, that is acute hearing, surprise capability, or visual superiority. That's 3 options. Roll a d6 and see how many we got.
I rolled 5.
All of them. So let's see.
Well, to be fair, if I saw this thing, I'd be surprised too. I'd spend a few segments going,
yeah.
What the hell are you?
All right, so we've made some adjustments. So there it is in all of its mind-destroying glory. Now it just needs a name. Now it just needs a name. Kyle, what do we call this devil?
I don't know. Let's let the audience choose. They'll come up with a name, and you go and find treasure type B for us to roll up.
Alrighty, I will find us treasure type B while you folks out there in audience land decide what you want this thing to be called.
Uncle wants to call it Buttercup.
Buttercup. Silence, fools, lest I gate in Buttercup. I'm feeling it. Unless one of you guys has got something that's really going to put it out of the park, Buttercup it is. Now, is that a name of the entire type of devil, or is this the?
Well, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's number appearing 1, and Is there going to be like one in each 10 by 10 room of a dungeon or something?
Possibly, could be. We don't judge how the DM decides to build his dungeons. Okay, so here we go, Kyle. Treasure type B. Let's roll for copper. That is percentile dice, please.
10.
10. It does have copper. Well, I mean, it's treasure type B. So in this example, it does have copper. That is 1 to 8,000 in this example.
2,000.
2,000 copper pieces. And again, this is not all of them. We're just doing this one up. Silver. Some of them, indeed. Silver, 1 to 6,000, 25% chance.
I rolled 16, so he doesn't indeed have silver. And
he doesn't.
1d6, was it?
Yes.
3,000. 3,000 silver.
He just throws handfuls of coins with as many tentacles at adventurers when they run in. Electrum, a goodly amount of electrum chance there. That is 25% also.
I rolled 11. He's got the
11. Those percentile dice. I'm loving those. That's 1 to 4,000 electrum.
1,000. The PCs won't be lugging out all the copper.
We won, but at what cost? Gold is 25% chance for 1 to 3,000.
46. No gold.
No gold. They're really going to hate us. Did you just laugh like that? Was that cackle yours?
Yes, it was my evil laugh.
That was great. I loved it. I love it. I'm here for it. Let's see. Gems, 1 to 8, 30% chance. This guy just knocked over a bunch of vending machines in Castle Greyhound.
30 exactly.
30 exactly. So that's 1 to 8 gems.
6 gems.
All right, 6 gems. Jewelry, 1 to 4 is 20% chance.
0.6.
1 to 4 piece. This guy could be
2 pieces of jewelry. He's cleaned up. He's wearing the jewelry.
Yep. It's his fanged teeth. It's the crunk grill. They're just all covered with diamonds and jewels. Okay. Now, magic items, very little chance. Sword, armor, or miscellaneous weapon, that's it. 10% chance.
0, 1.
You're kidding. You're kidding. Okay. Sword. This is where we're going to get our sword. Sword, armor, or miscellaneous weapon. Let's go back to the Dungeon Master's Guide. This is...
There is a demon ahead of you at the grocery store that buys $300 worth of groceries and wants to pay in pennies.
Yeah, that's chaotic evil.
No, it's lawful evil because it is legal to do so, but...
Fair enough. It is in the letter of the law, but absolutely not the spirit. That's just mean.
So what are we doing now?
We are checking. It was. Let me look back at the thing. It was sword, armor, or miscellaneous weapon. So there's no real roll to determine that. So just give me a D6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I thought it was just on the general treasure tables, the magic item tables.
Hang on a second. No, table 3 is just percentage dice, and it's. I mean, it goes potion, scrolls, rings, rod, staves, wands, then 5 categories of miscellaneous magic, then armor and shields, swords. So you know.
Okay, so 1d4. All right. 3.
3. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be swords, which leads us in an interesting place. Leads us
where we wanted to go.
exactly where we wanted to go. All right, so sword in its lair just happens to be that is a percentile roll, Kyle. What kind of sword does he have? You idiots, we've all got swords. 34. Come on, where is it? 34. Sword +1, +3 versus lycanthropes and shape changers.
Fair enough.
So, not a bad little letter opener in the monster's lair. So there you go. Orbital. I'm sorry?
Buttercup the demon.
Buttercup the devil.
Devil, yes. Descended from a woman who was very beautiful and used her beauty for evil. So in the afterlife, they turned her into this.
There you go.
And she's been bitter about it ever since.
Swords is interesting because 25% of all swords are actually intelligent. So let me get down to that. Now,
I rolled 45, so this one isn't.
That one isn't, but we do have to. We do have to, come up with. We want a magic sword that is intelligent. So
yeah, so we'll just say that it's intelligent. This will be the only decision that we make, as opposed to just roll for it.
Yes.
Everything else has been random so far, and everything following will be random. But we make one decision in this. We're now railroading.
Yes, we're horrible railroaders. Okay, sword primary abilities. Roll percentile dice, Kyle.
0-5.
Detect elevator, shifting rooms, walls within a 1-inch radius. I was made for construction detection purposes.
But it turned out to be effective against lycanthropes.
Indeed. That means it can detect a warehouse. Get it? A warehouse?
Let's move on, Bill. Let's move on.
Oh, man, not even the crickets wanted anything to do with that. Okay, sword extraordinary powers. That is also percentile. I haven't gone too far here, have I? Oh, we need to know the alignment of this sword, Kyle. That's a percentile.
I rolled 81.
81. Neutral good. It hates being in this thing's possession. And it damages him every time he picks it up. So he's got it under coins. He's got piles of coins just shoved on top of it. Okay, we've done primary abilities. Now, extraordinary powers.
0-6.
Charm person on contact 3 times a day.
Do you have to injure them, though? Is it that kind of contact?
I mean, I guess it, shank. Ow, that really hurts. Could you take that out of me? Wow, thank you. I appreciate that, pal. I do. Anyway, what were we talking about? I'm going to have to hold my hand there. I'm bleeding rather profusely from your sword, right? All right, so there's its extraordinary power. Special purpose sword. Does it have a special purpose? Roll percentile.
73.
73. Slay good and or evil. I'm going to say it's probably evil. It probably slays evil. Okay. Special purpose power. That is a percentage.
0-3. Getting a lot of low rolls today.
I know. You gotta lend me those when I'm doing when I'm doing treasure generation. So 0-3 blindness for 2 to 12 rounds.
Oh god. It strobes you because all magical swords glow. So this one strobes you.
Yeah. Pop. Get flash banged by a longsword. Okay. Table 6. Non-alignment languages spoken by sword. Percentile.
18.
18. One language. And since there are an infinite number of languages available,
It would have to be common. I mean, is it non-alignment languages spoken? Do we assume common?
I think we'd have to.
I don't think we have to assume common is spoken by all magical swords or all intelligent magical swords. I don't think that's a good assumption because they have an alignment and they have a purpose. Therefore, really, they only want to speak to somebody of that alignment.
Right. In the case of a neutral good sword, though, it can be wielded by chaotic or lawful goods as well and not damage them. So,
Well, there might be enough overlap in the dialects of alignment language. It can be wielded, but that doesn't mean it can be communicated with necessarily.
Now, this is not a roll for, but just for our audience's benefit. Sword ego is equal to every plus of the sword. And since we have determined that this is +1 and then +3 versus lycanthropes, it has an ego of 4.
He's moderately egotistical.
Yes.
He's a middle manager.
All right.
He's going to lean across your cubicle with a coffee and go, I need you to stay in the weekend and fight people.
Yeah, Peter, I'm going to need you to come in. Oh, Kyle, I'm such a nitwit. We actually missed table 1, which would have guided us a little bit more. Give me another percentile roll so we can determine its intelligence and whether or not it has more primary abilities.
40.
So 40. It is not intelligent. And it says, you know what? Let's not do 40. Let's roll again. And see if we can get something better.
0-7.
That's worse, Kyle. I'm going to need those are rookie numbers. You're going to pump those numbers
62.
up. So that's it. It's. Hang on a second. 1, 2. Roll a d6, Kyle.
3.
3. Okay. Its intelligence is 14. It has 2 primary abilities, and it can speak. So we have an intelligence of 14 and 2 primary abilities. So roll us another primary ability.
91.
91. 91 is locate objects in a 12-inch radius. Now,
Todd
for those
wants to know when a PC or NPC touches the hilt, will it charm the wielder?
Given that it has an ego and intelligence, I would say right off the bat, there is. Now, this is just my opinion. Kyle, yours may differ. DMs listening or watching, your opinions may differ also. And I know we've been kind of silly, but I think it's a legitimate question and it deserves a legitimate answer. Intelligent swords, I mean, you're lawful good, it's lawful good, you want to destroy evil magic users, it wants to destroy evil magic users, you're on a quest, it's on a quest. That still doesn't mean it necessarily is going to do everything you want all the time. It has its own goals, it has its own desires. And in the case of
like a certain magic ring. you determine that it's my precious.
Exactly so. So
Morally charmed.
you pick it up, and suddenly you're telling the party, it's a really good idea if we go to slay an evil magic user. Just all evil magic users we find, I want to attack them and slay them. Well, that's great, Jim, and we hope you get the chance. No, you don't understand. Me and the sword, we're simpatico. So I would say in this case, absolutely.
They're talking to it at night.
It's
like the Full Metal Jacket guy with his rifle. Talks to his rifle.
This is my longsword. There are many like it, but this one is mine.
I call it Vera.
Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely there's definitely the chance that when you grasp it tilt, it can charm you. Now, the way charm works in AD&D is on a daily basis. There's a depending on your intelligence, it could be a daily, weekly, monthly, whatever basis of breaking the charm. But then every time you draw the sword, you have to save versus spells, lest it charm you. Go, no. I see you've forgotten our special arrangement. Let me help you. So now there's the question of sword behaving. It has swords have their own personality strength. In the case of this particular example, it is a personality strength of 18. A character's personality strength is intelligence plus charisma plus level of experience, which seems to be much larger than that of a sword. But
don't they have extra personality strength when they have special powers and stuff?
I'm checking for that. So let's see. Level is reduced.
Your lawful good. Is this a pickup line for your sword? That's what I thought.
Level is reduced by 1 for every group of hit points of damage taken equal to the character's average number of hit points per die. For example, a fighter of 7th level has 53. 53 divided by 7 is 7.6. For every 8 points of damage he or she takes, his or her personality strength will be lowered by 1. When a personality conflict occurs, that is, when the character's personality strength equals or is less than the sword will resist the character's desires and demand concessions, such as removal of associates, henchmen, hirelings, or creatures of alignment or personality distasteful to the sword. I don't like the dwarf. Make the dwarf leave. I'm sorry, Sir Stabbington doesn't like you, Grindel. The character divesting himself or herself of all other magic items. You don't need a wand. What does a fighter need a wand for? Get rid of that. Well, it says all other magic weapons. So yeah, that daggers are for whores, milady. Get rid of that +1 dagger.
It sounds like Gygax was basing this on a crazy ex-girlfriend or something. You don't need any friends. You've got me.
Obedience from the character so the sword can lead the expedition for its purposes. Immediate seeking out and slaying of all creatures hateful to the sword. My particular favorite, encrustation of gems on pommel, hilt, scabbard, baldric, or belt, and a special container for its safekeeping, likewise of precious substances. Magical protections and devices to protect it from molestation when not in use. That the character pay it handsomely for all abilities and powers the sword is called upon to exercise in its behalf. Pay it. Pay the sword.
What's the sword going to do with treasure? Is it going to head down to the shops and buy some Cheerios? I mean,
it could make you do it.
Yeah, but what for?
That the character always take it along on all occasions. Well, it's a formal dinner, sir. You don't really need a sword. Yes, I do. I
think the sword rules should be extended to maces and daggers and staves and armor as well. And this would explain why you get the PCs who never take off their armor.
Yeah. I sleep in my plate mail. Well, you wake up in the morning with sciatica.
Why do you sleep in your plate mail? My plate mail told me to.
Let's see. And number 9, that the character relinquish the sword in favor of a more suitable person due to alignment differences and or conduct.
I'm going elsewhere.
Yeah.
Where I'm better appreciated.
At any time that the personality score of a sword exceeds the personality score of the character who possesses it, the sword will dominate its possessor, and it can force any or all of the above demands or actually cause any of the following actions: force its possessor into combat, refuse to strike opponents, strike at its wielder or his or her associates, getting strong Stormbringer vibes, force its possessor to surrender to an opponent, cause itself to drop from the character's grasp. So
Like
again, yeah. Naturally, such actions are unlikely where the character's sword alignment and purposes are harmonious. So, yeah, you know. However, the sword might well wish to have a lesser character possess it so as to easily command him or her, or a higher level possessor so as to better accomplish its goals. All magic swords with personalities will desire to play an important role in the success of activities, particularly combat. Likewise, if they are rivals, even if of the exact same alignment, and they will be aware of the presence of any similar weapon within 60 feet and try the best to lead a possessor into missing or destroying the rival, unless this is totally innocent to its nature, i.e. a Holy Avenger would certainly not allow destruction of any other lawful good sword, and might encourage discovery of same, even at the risk of having to face grim odds to do so.
So basically, your intelligent sword is a really nasty DMPC.
It is. It is.
How can I mess with the players?
Yeah. And the last paragraph kind of sums that up. Swords of this nature will never be totally controlled or silenced by the characters who possess them, even though they may be heavily outweighed by personality force. They may be powerless to force their demands, but they will be there plugging. Even a humble +1 sword of unusual nature can be a vocal martyr, denigrating its own abilities and asking that the character only give it the chance to shatter itself against some hated enemy.
So you can have this +1 longsword that has no powers or anything like that, but it speaks and it's just going, I'm so useless. You should just get rid of me, and just talks all day. Like, shut up, man. I'm trying to sleep.
Yep. Most players will be unwilling to play swords with personalities as the personalities dictate. It is incumbent to the DM to ensure that the role of the sword is played to the hilt. No pun intended here. With the DM assuming the persona of the sword if necessary. Dungeon Masters, absolutely do that. Absolutely do that. So there you go. There you have it. Both creatures of the underworld and magic swords, I think, are awesome, awesome things. And guys, this is 25% of all magic swords. 76 to double.
I think it should be 25% of all magic weapons and armor.
So you should have a club that has a personality?
Yeah, why not? Because I mean, what has given it the personality? It's something in the manufacturing process, in the magical manufacturing process. Now, either it's deliberate, right? They wanted the sword to be intelligent to fulfill some particular purpose, in which case it could just as well be fulfilled by a cleric with a mace, in some cases, you know, or a magic user with a staff or something like that, right? So either it's a deliberate part of the enchantment process, or it's an accidental part of the enchantment process. And there's nothing in the rules to indicate that accidentally imbuing it with the spirit of a demon or an angel or whatever is more or less likely with a sword than with any other weapon or armor or anything like that. So why not?
I don't disagree with you. I mean, I think it could get a little a little crazy.
I think if you did that, you might want to adjust the percentages down, so maybe 10% of all items or something. Because, like, if you had this magical sword and magical armor and a magical shield, you've got a party of 4 just with you and your gear.
Yeah, you wind up like Rogue Trooper if you ever read that in 2000 AD. The genetic super soldier and all of his comrades got killed, but they had personality backups, and all of his equipment had a socket he could put their personality backups in. So, like, his helmet talked to him, his gun talked to him, his backpack talked to him. It was crazy. But there are artifacts, weapons, I know, in deities and demigods, like Mjolnir is an intelligent weapon, and Mjolnir is a hammer. I'm almost certain that, like, Odin's spear is likewise, but I could be wrong about that if anybody wants to grab their DDG and look me up. But there are plenty of cases, I think, to support the idea of an intelligent weapon other than a sword. There's a question. Rogue Trooper was actually good. Is telekinesis an option for the sword to have? Because if it did, choices would be afoot. Yes. Telekinesis. Let's see. Now, a dancing sword, a sword of dancing, of course, can move of its own volition. So, extraordinary sword powers. Yes. Levitation, telekinesis, teleportation. So the sword has the ability to move around on its own or move stuff. So yeah, it's and
I don't want to go to that fight sword. We're going.
Yeah. All right, let's go with that Dragon's Lair. Boss, I'm just a +1 weapon and you're only a 5th level fighter. No, we're going in there. No, we're not. Blink.
Back to the inn.
Yeah. I had an intelligent sword way back when you and I first started playing D&D together on that game that eventually settled into the Monday night game. I'm not sure if you remember, one of our players had a +2 sword, Neckbreaker, and I had the thing talk like Brian Blessed in the game, and it drove the player who had it up the wall. Hello, David, if you're watching. But I've got a dagger sword that does 250 gold pieces telekinesis 3 times a day. There you go. Oh, I'm glad you've enjoyed it, Clark. We've had a lot of fun too.
Ricky thinks any non-consumable item could be intelligent, but what would be really funny is if consumable items were intelligent too.
Oh God, a potion.
Potion say, no, don't drink me.
Ugh. Or maybe they'd be enthusiastic about it. You know, potion special purpose, cure wounds. That's right. Chug me down. That's what I want.
Well, that was in one of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books. They go to the restaurant at the end of the universe, where you can watch the universe end. It's
the cow
10 million years from now, and this guy comes up to the table, and he's kind of half man, half pig, and he says, "Rightio, I'll be your dinner this evening. Which part of me would you like?"
Yeah.
And after saying, "What is this?" And
yeah.
Ford explains to him, people said it's so inhumane to kill animals and eat them. Why is it inhumane to kill animals and eat them? Well, would you want to be killed and eaten? So we genetically modified an animal that would want to be killed and eaten.
I remember that. Right, sir, I'll just nip off to the kitchen and finish myself. Don't worry, I'll be merciful. And Arthur's just like sitting there appalled while everyone tucks into their meals after he comes out. Esoteric Order of Nerdery. That is a question for you, Kyle. Third Imperium, Traveler Universe, or Traveler 2300?
Neither. Roll it up.
There you go.
So Third Imperium Traveler Universe, it's a whole setting that, there's an Imperium, and generally speaking, you're on the kind of borderlands of it, either bordering another empire or, on the less explored areas. You don't really go to the core worlds because there's less adventure there. And then Traveller 2300 is a sci-fi continuation of Twilight 2000. So a bunch of guys actually got together and war-gamed out the Third World War, and then played out what they thought would happen after that. And so you've got the French realm and all that sort of stuff. And they don't have jump drives. They called it a Stutterwart drive. It does lots of little jumps, like 10 centimeters or something. It's got like that, and travels faster than light that way. And it did that, and yeah, I never found either of them interesting. For the same reason that I've never really gone for established campaign settings like Forgotten Realms and things like that. If it's a setting, then I have to know it well. And if I advertise a game and say it's going to be set in this universe, inevitably there's going to be one player at the table who has all the books about that universe and starts arguing all the details with me. And it's just like if you try to do an historical game. But actually, in 1136, they didn't yet have stirrups in Eastern Pomerania. They had them in Western Pomerania, but not in Eastern Pomerania. And they didn't, and then you have to like murder everyone at the game table or something. So, so I've always been too lazy to know the entire settings back to back, and there's always a player who will argue the details. So it's easier just to roll them up. And as we've demonstrated tonight, as on many other occasions, just rolling things up comes up with far more entertaining and interesting things than you would get just in an established setting. Because established settings have to be plausible, whereas rolling things up like reality doesn't have to be plausible. So yeah, I just roll things up. I use the book 1, the Classic Traveller, or books 1 to 3, and roll up the random worlds, and from those numbers try to come up with something that makes sense and play it out.
Yep. By the way, I had missed this. I missed seeing this the other night. I don't know if Jorge is watching right now, but Jorge Uribe bought me a copy of Old School Essentials Fantasy Rules Tome from Drive-Thru RPG, and I just wanted to give him a shout out for that. Thank you very much, Jorge, for that purchase. I saw the email come in and completely forgot to mention to it. So big shout out. We appreciate that kind of help and support. So that might come up for a deep dive soon. I might have to dig in to that and take a look at what it's all about. I'm always interested to see other takes on the classic D&D formula. So thank you very much for that. But to the matter at hand, I guess if you're totally committed to having just a, I'm going to roll up every hex, maybe it's one mountain and it's surrounded by swamps. I don't know. I don't care. I guess I kind of walk the fine line, because you take like the World of Greyhawk, the World of Greyhawk set. It gives you gods, it gives you major cities, it gives you major kingdom divisions, and a little bit of history. But like the World of Greyhawk map, outside of those cities, doesn't really have a lot on it. So, you may go with the Howling Wilderness, where you're just like, no, it is exactly as you see. It's not, there's not villages, or you can Philly checks yourself. I think it strikes, for me, I think it strikes the perfect balance between just see where the dice take you and...
Well, you could do that within Greyhawk, because the Darlene map is 30-mile hexes, isn't it? So
yeah,
if you use the hex crawl method that we did, when you're looking at one single mile hex at a time, that's 30 hexes across. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on in that single hex.
Yeah.
So you could just pick one hex somewhere out there, and the party, you start them off in a village in the middle of that hex, and they're clearing it out. And the long-term adventure can be, everybody's the first ed thing is, you make it to 9th level or so, and you establish a stronghold and clear the surrounding hexes of monsters.
Yeah.
So that could be the long-term thing, because you think of how long it would take an adventuring party to clear, even 6 hexes radius around a particular town, all the hexes that are in there. And while they're doing it, of course, a fresh bunch of wandering random monsters would come in, because if you clear out one area, that you've now made room for another apex predator. Kill the lions here, and some tigers show up or whatever. And so the amount of time that you'd spend doing that, you would collect enough experience points to get up to 9th level. Even if a few of your characters died along the way, and you had to start new ones at first, you'd collect enough experience. And so just that one 30-mile hex could be a whole campaign lasting a year or two.
Yeah. And I think Jimmy's got the right of it. Greyhawk was painted broad enough to broad enough strokes to allow DM improvisation. Forgotten Realms went the other direction. To answer Jack's question, are we talking specialty, esoteric, DM specific magic items, or DMG specific magic items? I think a little of both, because we're talking about generating items out of the Dungeon Master's Guide, and how a DM can do that to come up with something silly like, a sword that detects sliding rooms and wants to slay magic users, and so on and etc. So I think it
has the power of blinding people and charming them.
Blinding and charming people, exactly. So a little from column A, a little from column B. Hey, Wave of Mutilation, greetings, good to see you. Bob says, I've never bought anything from Drive-Thru for someone else. I haven't figured that out. I may have. I honestly don't remember. No, I have bought stuff for someone else on DTRPG. And remember, at least for right now, DTRPG has a lot of classic D&D on print on demand. They don't have the World of Greyhawk set anymore. I don't understand why stuff comes off of print on demand. Like, really, if I give you the money, you can't send a print job to a print shop and have something printed and drop shipped to me. Give them the money that I gave you so they can print it out and then send it to me. It's not like the old days of printing where they have to engrave a plate.
Yeah.
It's just knocked out on a large format laser printer.
There's no reason to take things down. Like Clash is playing Mike's games, who my stuff goes through. He keeps stuff up forever. The only thing he does is usually, if he does a second edition, he'll take the first edition down. If he thinks the first edition was really awful or something. But even sometimes he doesn't do that. He just leaves it up. It does no harm. There's a guy whose blog I follow, and he writes on various issues and that. And he just sort of said that, like, building up a writing income was a matter of, the long tail. The long tail added up to a pretty thick tail, because he said every time I put out a new book, there are some sales of some of my old books too. Things that I wrote 20 years ago. So I just kept writing, just keep putting out a book every year or whatever. And over time, that builds up to a decent income. So, there's really no reason to take stuff down.
Yeah. I've got, I've gotten the same thing on my live or on my videos. It's like I drop a new video and people go back and watch old stuff. I can see upticks in certain video categories when and particularly if I say, now I did a video on this a while ago, I'll link to it in the description. and people just follow right along, and
Yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely agree with that premise.
So I don't know what the hell Watsy is thinking, but I mean, who knows what they're thinking?
I think, and I'm gonna let's get our foil hats on here real quick. I think it is as simple as this. I think that with the pod D&D stuff, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think their mindset is, we really don't want people to have the option to get everything that they would want to play classic D&D. So we just switch it on and off periodically. I mean, for the longest time, you could get, like I said, the World of Greyhawk set was available as print on demand. Volcano God has a copy of it. I've seen it. It's a lovely book. It's got the map in sections in the back of it. The PDF is very nicely arranged too. I finally broke down and bought a copy of the PDF because the free ones suck. But they don't have it anymore. It's not available as a book anymore. Artificial scarcity, yeah, that's just it. If I can tell someone, hey, Dungeon Master, you want physical books, right? You can go get all the classic books. I don't think they're dumb enough, at least until they finally just stomp their little foot and say, it's all wrong think, and we have to get rid of it. I don't think they're dumb enough to nuke the print copies of Dungeon Masters, Players, and Monster Manual. But yeah, outside of that, if I want to send somebody for stuff to run their campaign with, and they want all print stuff, well, you can get the core books, but not a not a World of Greyhawk set. Sorry.
Well, they probably think that the older edition stuff sort of detracts from interest in the newer edition stuff. But I mean, I'm not running Watsy or privy to their internal numbers and everything and data that they'd have, but my feeling is that that's probably not true. Like, it sort of makes sense. Like, like classic Coke and New Coke. They had the New Coke, and it's like, well, some people did like New Coke, so maybe they should have kept it around. And you can see why they didn't, because there's physical effort to do so. They've got to have different formulas at the factories and everything, and they've got to ship it out separately and blah, blah, blah. So you could understand why they wouldn't bother and go, okay, 90% of people like the classic Coke or whatever, so we just won't bother with the other one. But when it's just electronic stuff, it just sits there forever. And so, it doesn't, I wouldn't imagine it detracts, but maybe they think, like, these big companies, they're big on branding and all that sort of stuff. So there's probably that kind of thinking going on.
And it's funny because, and I've said this before, I've harped on this very recently. In one of my box sets over there, I'm not going to go digging for it right now, but there's I've got one of the Your Gateway to Adventure TSR catalogs, right? And, they talk about all the stuff you can buy direct from TSR. And there was a lovely 3 or 4 year stretch at TSR when Gary still had a voice, when you could get original D&D, both Holmes Basic and Moldvay Basic, and of course Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and it didn't hurt their sales. They were making money hand over fist, and nobody went, well, this is confusing. What D&D do I play? I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't have a player's handbook, but I had the basic and expert sets for Moldvay. I had a Dungeon Master's Guide, and I had a Monster Manual, and Deities and Demigods and Monster Manual too. I had more than enough with those to run a D&D game. And Gary himself said, and there's an interview with with Gary. You can on my channel. You can listen to it. Where he said, it didn't hurt us, and we didn't disabuse people of the notion that they could buy all the D&Ds. So, I mean, I guess someone from WotC might make the argument back, well, you still can buy it. That's why we have it on drive-through. So, I don't know. I'm just some nerd sitting in a bunker somewhere. So, down here in my launch control capsule, waiting for the signal to turn the keys.
I've been reading about that stuff on Her Majesty's Nuclear Service.
Oh, very cool. Good book?
It's a good book. It's about a British guy who joined the Royal Navy. His father had been in a ship that sank in World War II. His father survived, but it was in a ship that sank. And he joined the Royal Navy. He doesn't give exact dates, but about 1960 or 63, something like that. And first on a diesel boat. Then he didn't perform very well in his first 6 months. So they kicked him off and they sent him to a World War II boat. It's leftover one. And he said it was very good for him because he'd known nothing but success so far. Got honours in his class and all the rest. And so a bit of failure was good for him, developed character and made him reflect more on what he was doing and all the rest. Became a better officer as a result. And then after that, he asked for a land position. He said, so at the time they put a lot of effort into developing sonar and developing stealth, but they didn't actually have any anti-submarine torpedoes. And because the regular torpedoes were connected, like they had World War II torpedoes. They were connected by a wire, right? And so they'd fire the torpedo, and the captain would be there with his periscope looking at the ship that was their target and going, okay, 3 degrees to port, 4 to starboard, whatever, and for the guy who's guiding it. And he said about 50% of the time the wire broke, and the torpedo just went off in a random direction. He said sometimes the torpedo had little sonar detectors on it to try to ping a ship, but it got set off by everything: dolphins, whales, a bit of rock. It sometimes got set off by its own turbulent bubbles, and so went round and round in circles. And there was even one that got set off by the nearby slope to the beach, and it went off the beach and landed on a nearby golf course, alarming the local golfers.
Oh my God!
So so they couldn't get submarines either because they couldn't see the submarines through the scope, right? The periscope. Right. So they needed, and he thought, we need to develop a proper torpedo, and he wanted to do that. Then he later went on to, and he also wanted to be closer to his wife, who'd popped out a couple of kids and stuff. So he wanted a shore facility deployment, and that was regarded as like a massive demotion in that because he wasn't out at sea. So he got it, and he was developing torpedoes. But he talks about his time on the diesel boat, and I like this because it was an example of the ridiculousness. So when we roll the dice and come up with ridiculous stuff, it's real. You have to get into the back of the DMG and get to random demons and devils before you get as ridiculous as reality. So Andrew, this was the World War II boat, was a maid of all work. Our next adventure involved towing a large hydrogen-filled barrage balloon with a radar reflector attached. This enabled scientists from the Admiralty Underwater Weapons Establishment to track us with an experimental long-range sonar fitted in the frigate HMS Virulent. Our range whilst underwater was measured by radar reflections from the balloon. The balloon was attached to an Oropesa float, a torpedo-like body that flew horizontally in the water like an aquatic kite. It was used in minesweeping for spreading towed cables. This was bizarre. Imagine a submarine on the surface being pursued by a torpedo with an airship hovering overhead. Then imagine the submarine dive. the viewer would see only an airship being towed by a small torpedo. To the west of the Scillies, we encountered a fleet of Polish fishing boats. I was on periscope watch and saw one of the Poles detach from the fleet and come over to investigate. It was not a fishing boat. It was a Soviet spy trawler that had been hiding amongst the fishing boats.
Sure.
Goodness knows what it reported back to Moscow. The British have invented a new secret weapon, a torpedo that tows an airship. That must have reverberated through the corridors of Soviet naval intelligence. Balloon disposal at the end of the trial seemed to have slipped under the scientists' metaphorical radar. They had no plan for recovering it. As our ultimate destination was Faslane, we now had to tow our giant balloon up the Irish Sea and into the Clyde estuary. Toby Freer, a qualified pilot, dutifully sent out a NOTAM signal, notice to airmen, to the ops room at Faslane for onward transmission to the aviation world. A large hydrogen-fueled balloon, filled with balloon, was a hazard to aircraft. The ops room at Faslane, however, dealt only in submarines and ignored the signal. Thus, a V-bomber designed to fly our atomic bombs into Russia whilst conducting a low-level bombing run up the Irish Sea came face-to-face with a large unmanned airship. That almost started the Third World War between the Royal Air Force and the Royal Army and Royal Navy. We were then refused permission to bring our balloon into Faslane on explosive safety grounds, but could not simply release it as it would have risen to high altitude, been a further hazard to aircraft, and its radar reflector could have been picked up on the filing day's early warning system and be classed either as an unidentified flying object or an incoming Soviet ballistic missile. Just off Arran, while I was on watch, a general-purpose machine gun and a clip of tracer bullets were sent to the bridge with instructions to shoot down the balloon. One shot later, I had a rerun of the Hindenburg disaster unfolding 500 feet above my head. The balloon simply burst into a massive hydrogen-fueled fireball, disintegrated, and fell burning into the sea. It was a most magnificent spectacle, but witnessed only by a flight of passing gannets, the lookout, and me. A shame, for it was a true Hollywood spectacle. But how sad to see our beautiful balloon coming to such a sticky end. It had been with us for weeks and was almost like a pet. It had certainly put us one up on any other submarine.
That's great.
It's the old story. The truth is stranger than fiction because truth doesn't have to be plausible.
Right on. I don't know if he's gone into this yet. It sounds like a fascinating book, but there's two things about British submarining that fascinate me, and there may be something similar with the U.S. Navy, at least in the first case that I'm not aware of. But British ballistic missile submarine commanders are issued a letter of last resort.
Yes, he mentions that in the book. So the captain's safe has a safe within it, and it's a letter from the Prime Minister saying, what do you do if war breaks out and you don't hear from command for 4 hours? Mm-hmm. So after 4 hours without any messages, not just after 4 hours with your radio broken. So it's a sort of a Crimson Tide scenario. These were the last. This is what we last heard was happening. Okay, what do we do? Because they themselves were not supposed to send out any messages. At the time he was writing, so about in the 1960s and 70s, they'd do a 2-month patrol, and during those 2 months, those 8 weeks, they didn't send any messages back to London. They received messages on BLF and stuff, but they didn't send any messages. So they couldn't have a back and forth to see what was going on. But yeah, it was a letter of last resort. And it was like, if you think Britain has been nuked, what do you do? And so the Prime Minister was free to say retaliate, because he said, so normally like they shared targets with the Americans, so there wouldn't be any like everyone bombs Moscow, but nobody bombs Vladivostok kind of thing. So there wouldn't be any stuff-ups like that. But because there wasn't really any plausible scenario in which Britain would be firing its nuclear weapons without the United States also doing so. But nonetheless, they might have lost communications with everyone and think that a war has started out. So a Twilight 2000 kind of scenario, you're on your own.
Right.
So what do? They get a letter, and the letter might say, "Okay, retaliate," or it might say, "Don't bother."
Yeah. Get
So it
yourself
might be
to,
like 60 million people in Britain have died. If we kill 20 million Russians, the British are still dead.
yeah.
It's
Take,
what's the point kind of thing. But of course, if the Russians knew that that was the policy of the current prime minister, then they might go ahead and attack.
right.
So it had to be a safe within a safe on the submarine. And he said, like, he thought, over his time in service, he thought that different prime ministers, he said, to my knowledge, none of these letters have ever been opened.
Yeah, they are, to my understanding, they are considered like tip top, absolutely beyond top secret levels of classified, just because it does establish a birds are in the air retaliatory nuclear policy. And I seem to recall having heard that when a new PM comes in, an order goes out and the captains burn the letters of last resort because they will be issued new ones based on the individual policy of the new PM.
Yeah. So, he gave an example. There was a Labor PM who had, or was it McMahon or whatever, the one that was suggested later might have been a Soviet spy or whatever. And he said, he probably had a don't fire back policy.
Yeah.
And if Jeremy Corbyn of Labor nowadays ever became PM, he'd probably have a don't fire back policy. Because, especially in the 1970s, there was a lot of action from the Citizens for Nuclear Disarmament and stuff. So there was various pressures like that. But letter of last resort and all the rest. That's one of the things he mentions in passing.
The other thing that I was going to mention, and this could be urban legend. The letter of last resort is pretty common knowledge. Not what's in it, but its existence. But I don't know if this is urban legend or not. But that one of the do we really know if England is still there? We've lost contact for X time, is they will hop the radio frequency bands and see if they can tune in the BBC. And if they can pick up the BBC, the guy on the BBC is just talking about football scores, okay, don't empty the tubes. it's just a cock up somewhere. This guy's talking about football. The next lady is going to be talking about crocheting. The guy after that's going to give a review of some new movie. So don't shoot.
Well, so far he doesn't mention any false alarms or anything like that. But he was a bit that made me think of. Sapphire's just dropped out, but made me think of Sapphi and Tammy in the classic Traveller game as the engineers, because it said I had imagined that the engine room of a nuclear submarine would be pristine, high tech, and space age. In fact, only the reactor was high tech. The steam it generated, so-called saturated steam, was fed into machinery that was Second World War technology, with all the traditional engineering problems that entailed: bilge water, steam leaks, pump priming, inaccessible spaces, etc. The reactor, sitting in its unmanned ivory tower, merely boiled water. It was the world's most expensive kettle. Preparing a nuclear-powered submarine for sea is a 2-day operation that begins with comprehensive pre-critical checks. These involve double-checking that every single reactor-related valve, both inside and outside the reactor compartment, is in the correct position, and that all electronic monitoring and protection systems are tested and working correctly. The protection system is designed to operate on a fail-safe principle based on 3 criteria: sensitivity, integrity, and responsibility. The reactor monitoring sensors had to be sensitive and reliable enough to detect change, but a submarine cannot afford to suffer automatic shutdown of its power plant just because one of its sensors becomes defected, as it could hazard the boat. So there were 3 identical guard lines, and the reactor would scram automatically only if 2 or more indicated the same problem, which gave the system responsibility. It was called 2 out of 3 logic. Nowadays, 3 out of 4 is used. After pre-critical checks, the reactor compartment plug is shut, and thereafter the compartment remains unmanned because the radiation levels inside would be fatal to humans. The reactor control rods are then drawn out slowly until criticality is achieved. This is the nuclear tipping point. Continued rod withdrawal beyond that would lead to supercriticality, a massive uncontrolled surge of nuclear power. This is what happened when Chernobyl went off the clock. Our reactors, though, were self-regulating and would self-correct as the rising temperature made the reactor less reactive. Engineering brilliance. Chernobyl had an inherently dangerous design characteristic, and the Soviet operators caused that disaster through bypassing safety systems. Our safety management would never have allowed that. Once the reactor was critical, the steam system had to be warmed through in the time-honoured fashion before the turbines and propeller could be turned. It is a very slow and painstaking process. Unlike a jet fighter, a nuclear submarine cannot be scrambled. So I thought that was interesting. It's like, takes a couple of days, to get things going.
This is actually, so this is from Business Insider. This was what I was talking about here. This is how a 60-year-old BBC radio show may be one of the only things keeping the world from nuclear war. I think that's a bit histrionic, but let's see. This is back from 2019. Deep underwater on submarines equipped with nuclear missiles, British crews are constantly prepared to fire their weapons and potentially play a part in bringing about the end of the world. Sailors on the 4 Vanguard-class submarines, which patrol the waters and hold the UK's nuclear deterrent, operate under strict protocol for working out when to act and what to do, part of which is said to include listening to BBC radio. According to a prominent British historian, the broadcast of the BBC Radio 4's Today program is one of the official measures the Royal Navy uses to prove that the United Kingdom still exists. Today has been broadcast at around breakfast time since 1958 and is the highest profile news program in British media. Lord Peter Hennessy, a history professor who joined the UK's House of Lords in 2010, said that if it can't be heard for 3 days in a row, then it could signify Britain's demise and trigger the Doomsday Protocol. Nice to know that the birds could fly just because of bad ratings. According to Politico, Hennessy says the failure to pick up the BBC Today program for a few days is regarded as the ultimate test. If no sign comes through, the commander and deputy will open letters that contain instruct blah blah blah. It's your letters of last resort.
Well, presumably, they'd also be listening for like French radio and stuff. And
I would hope, yeah. It's like
you would expect that, like, if Britain got nuked, even if France didn't, they'd at least mention it on French radio.
Like
even if you don't speak French, you'd hear nuclear or something.
Mushroom cloud. But it talks about that. Let's see. Do nothing, launch a retaliatory strike, offer yourself to an ally like the USA, or use your own judgment. Essentially, are you going to use the missiles or not? The UK has 4 submarines that are capable of carrying the country's Trident nuclear missiles, which is a weird thing because the missiles belong to the United States.
The missiles warheads are British.
The warheads are British. The missiles are American, which is just one of those weird, strange-ass military things. Like, this is completely different, but I feel like it bears mentioning. People often, when talking about D-Day, like, why didn't the Panzers just roll in and crush the invasion on the beach? And they could have, except German bureaucracy said that when the tanks are this far from the beach, they belong to this army. After this point, they belong to the command structure. They'll be given over to Rommel, and who was celebrating his birthday. They'll be given over to him to defend the beaches, but not until. And it was just this weird back and forth. So they couldn't they couldn't they basically could not arrive at a decision to unleash the tanks until it was too late. Clanner Jake says Subbrief is a fun channel. Yes, I know Subbrief. Subbrief is a great channel on YouTube. If you're interested in lots of military things, but most things Navy. Anywhere in the world, check out Subbrief. He's got a fun channel. But let's see here. So we are just about at that fun time when we've talked about enough random subjects. YouTube actually has a wheel spin thing. We should get that on the channel one night and just spin the wheel of RPG or general topics and see which one it ends up. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, I should be back tomorrow night. There's some stuff going on right now that I've got to see what's going to happen, but I believe that I will be back tomorrow evening when we'll have some more fun, some more RPG chat, less end of the world, more beginning of the adventure kind of stuff. Kyle, you'll be back with us, of course, next Wednesday, and Friday we'll be back with some Gamma World fun at 9:00. We may do a little bit of pre-show before then, but I think you guys dig it when we dive right in. And y'all put paid to the idea that nobody likes to watch Gamma World. We had a huge number of people watching Gamma World on Friday. I think people are enjoying watching the players fight evil Mickey Mouse robots in animated Disney or in automated Disneyland. So thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Kyle, as always, my friend. So we are going to go ahead and wrap up. Now, I have been having some audio issues, so I apologize if when I run the end credits, you guys can't hear the song. I'm going to push Kyle out of the way there, and we're gonna see if any of you guys have seen my owl bear, and hopefully this won't destroy my eardrums if it does work. So peace, good night, bless you all, and have a safe evening and a better tomorrow.
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around. Some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle way off course? Naked as a toad all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.